Oh, we're live.
Well, we're technically not live.
Well, we're privately live.
I don't care. Just go.
Hey, pass me a beer.
You gonna do that? Oh man,
I'd kill for a beer.
Cheap beer and a sympathetic ear. Step right up.
Why do we even have to play the recorded version anymore? You know it. That was horrible. Don't do it again.
Hey, pass me a beer.
Look, at least promise me you won't drink. Alcohol always leads to trouble.
Hey, who wants to play Drink the Beer?
Right here.
You win.
All right, what do I win?
Another beer.
Just have a cup of coffee.
There it is.
Coffee?
Beer.
I'd kill for a beer.
Cheap beer and a sympathetic ear. Step right up.
That was really bad.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Chad from the BeerdedHops Podcast. Adam is with us tonight. Jakey is not. Adam is traveling and is in a hotel in Toronto, Canada.
But I'm so committed, so much more committed than Jake. Jake's in Austin and he can't be here, but
Yeah.
I am in another country and I can be here. So
That's right. That's right. You know,
Sucker.
Jake probably has awesome Wi-Fi because it's a U.S. hotel.
Yeah. Just
I
introduce
probably
like this. Let's know what this.
I probably shouldn't say that.
Probably.
We have yet another special guest tonight, another bearded man, Sean.
Beautiful beard.
Sean, who has a beautiful beard, from Draft Therapy. Hey, Sean, how you doing tonight?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Man, freaking tastic. So does everybody have a beer?
I'm cracking mine right now.
I have
I
one.
have mine. Yeah, I have Steam Whistle, which is a Toronto beer. Have you heard of these guys, Sean?
No, I think I heard. Didn't you guys talk about them recently
I don't know. I forget what
We did talk about them.
with Matt? Right?
Yep.
From Massive.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
I listen. I listen.
Yeah, I don't. I even edit. I still don't listen when I edit. So, they make only Pilsner. They make one beer. That's it. Yeah, it's Pilsner. So it's not too bad.
I have
Yeah,
got
The corn syrup in it, so it doesn't taste nearly as good as the other stuff.
I've got Shipwreck Brewing out of Door County, Wisconsin. They are in Egg Harbor. This is the Peninsula Porter.
Like her. Nice. What do you got, John?
I have. So I bet you could guess where this beer comes from.
Michigan.
Yeah. Hey. Well, not really. It's a collaboration with a Michigan brewery.
Oh, okay.
This is a Drecker out of Fargo, North Dakota. This is a Fluff Buddy, a Marshmallow Double IPA in collaboration with Ascension Brewing Company in Novi, Michigan.
Very nice. A marshmallow IPA. I don't think I've had one of those.
I have never had this. This is the first time I'm having this. So
Yeah.
I want to say I've had a marshmallow IPA before, but I don't know who or where it was from. It may have been. Oh, I bet I'm thinking of the brewery's macaroon beer.
All right.
That's probably what I'm thinking of. Good
Jake's
story.
cool
Good story.
Cool story. Thanks for sharing that. So, Sean, how did you get started with this whole beer review thing? On the YouTube?
I've done a lot of kind of, I don't know if you want to call them like internet ventures, like websites that I've written or just websites in general for a long time. And specifically the beer stuff, I wanted to get into YouTube. I wanted to funnily enough, do like podcasts and stuff, but I didn't want to do one by myself, and I could never get someone to do one with me consistently. So I had I used to have a B-movie review site where I reviewed all types of just horribly bad B-movies. And we did a podcast for like 5 episodes, and then my friend bailed on me. And it was impossible to get him to really, get time. I was committed, but he wasn't. And then several years after that, I decided I wanted to do a YouTube channel, and I couldn't think of what to do. So I was, I was getting back into beer after being away from it for a long time, like several years. And just decided that, maybe I could do this thing. And I wanted to learn, how to use a camera. I've always been interested in it, but I never have like really used a video camera or a camcorder or anything like that, or even anything more than point and shoot. So I figured it would be a good way to learn video editing, some kind of like production stuff, sound, all the whole gamut of stuff that you have to learn when you do this. And, I looked at, hey, nobody does beer reviews. This is like, nobody does this at all. What an original idea. So that's how I kind of started the channel. That's how I got into it initially.
Now, when was the start of the channel?
Nobody does beer reviews. Still to this day, it's crazy.
Nobody. I feel like I'm on an island. I don't see anybody else looking at beer stuff.
Never. Yeah.
I created the channel in like March of 2017. And then I think my first video was sometime in May of 2017. So it's almost been 2 years. I think it's probably either just past 2 years or it'll just about be 2 years soon.
And you've just recently passed a milestone.
I have.
In your subscribership.
I have. I was watching the number inch. It's like, so it's, I'll let the cat out of the bag. It's 1,000. But yeah, it was like, I get to like this near the 100 mark, maybe like in the 80s, 180, 280, 380, whatever. And then it slows to a crawl. And then once it gets past that, I like get 40 in like 2 weeks. And I'm like, whoa, I'm blowing up. And then it takes forever to get to the next thing. So I was just happy to cross the threshold and be done with it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm looking at your number right now. It's 1,003, and we're subscribed, I believe, on Bearded Hops. But I always, when we're doing these interviews, I always get on my personal channel, which is Wisco Boater, and hit that subscribe button with whoever we talk to. So here you go. There's one more subscriber for you.
Oh my God! You second channel. Like, I always got to do free promo on the show, don't you, Jeff?
Well, of course. Why not?
Hey, why not? Yeah, I know I don't want to say anything because then like 4 people will unsubscribe and I'll dip under 1,000 and be like, what, this guy's not 1,000? Whatever, this guy's a liar. So
we had that happen. We had that happen just a couple weeks ago where we had like four or five subscribers drop off and we're like, what the fuck's going on? Like, what do we do? But then we recovered and got them more people back. But our number's still very low. I mean, we're still scratching at the wall there to climb.
How do you I was going to ask this. I'm going to turn it around on you guys. How do you gauge, like, you're across a couple different platforms, or are you mostly on YouTube?
Yeah, so when we started out, we kind of did the shotgun method and went everywhere. So we were live streaming. We actually live streamed on Twitch, live streamed on YouTube. We put the audio up on all the different podcast platforms and everything like that. And then we decided we wanted to do more YouTube. Right, Chad? Am I thinking this right? I think so.
Yeah, we decided, we thought YouTube was probably the best platform out of all of them. So we started to just kind of move towards YouTube. We're still doing the other audio hosting sites, but more of a concentrated effort on YouTube.
Yeah. So the audio basically from this will go up on the podcast stream, as we say. So anybody who subscribes to the podcast will hear the audio part of it. But we started out doing just beer reviews. And Chad just sitting there having a beer, reviewing it, and talking about like some beer related news. And then this year we've switched up to doing pretty much all interviews at this point. Because we find it much more fun than to have to look at each other and talk about a single beer.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, it gets to be kind of grindy after a while, just doing the same beer review. Even with another person, that'd be like more than that. I don't know what I do with myself. I'd be talking to somebody else instead of just this open pit of sadness, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's fun talking to other people. I mean, we've talked to talked to a brewer, we've talked to some people in the kind of beer journalism industry, we've talked to a distillery, and so far the distillery one has been was a lot of fun.
Yeah, the distillery one was awesome, and we're all the three of us are very good friends. We enjoy each other's time and talking to each other, but getting to know new people is I'm probably one of the more of the three of us more outgoing personalities of the
Absolutely.
of the group here. So I love the, just talking with new people and learning about, how you got into this, what else do you do? What are your other interests? What do you do for work? All that kind of stuff. I'm interested in other people's stories and activities. So
And
this,
I hate human interaction, period. That's what I do.
So
Sean, what's your day job?
yeah, that's exactly where I was going.
I know with 1,000 subscribers, you're making huge money.
Oh yeah, this is my day job. All day, air day. This is all I do.
Gotta get that YouTube money, baby.
That's right, man. Just
make it rain.
Making it rain.
Make it
every
rain.
day.
Penny after penny after penny.
That's right. Half penny. I cut them.
Yeah.
You got to make it last. No, I'm a business analyst for a communications company. It's exciting stuff. I know you talk. I've been looking forward to talking to you guys and listening to some of your past guests and beer by the numbers, right?
Yeah.
He said that he just sits and stares at Excel sheets. That's pretty much what I do. I look at a lot of MS Excel. To give you any indication of how exciting my job is. When I got Office 365, it was the coolest thing that had ever happened to me at work.
Love it. That's hilarious. Yeah, I have a fair share of my time buried in I call spreadsheet hell. So yeah, I know that for sure.
I sort of enjoy spreadsheets, but that's because I've spent a lot of my professional career outside of, and I used to fly for a living. So when I stopped flying, the spreadsheet thing was kind of intriguing to me. Now I'm not a big fan of it much anymore, but when I first got into kind of working in an office, I was like, spreadsheets, this is really kind of fun.
You can make a little pixel art with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just, it's putting, I mean, it's like, I could talk about Excel, believe me, all day. And I probably could. That's how sad it is. But, it's a lot to it, man.
You have to spin off channel. You do.
Maybe it is. Excel tutorials. And beer. Oh,
and beer.
Man.
Well,
new venture.
I was going to say,
tutorials while drunk. There you go. That'd be good.
You'd have to combine the two. Definitely. There are Excel channels out there where, anything and everything you want to know, but I've not come across one where somebody is explaining some formulation in Excel while drinking beer and talking about the beer at the same time.
Oh, I don't know if I could do it.
I would just do somebody explain Excel while slurring their speech because they're just so you're gonna go over here and you're gonna get equal and you're gonna do something.
Let me show you get pivot data.
Yeah.
This
and we're gonna pivot to a new beer.
I was gonna say, if we're gonna start talking about pivot tables, I might just leave the room.
and Jake loving this. I mean, he's an Excel nerd to the core. So,
all right.
Well, how's how the beers treating you guys, Sean? What's your beer like?
I was expecting, being this, the title of this has marshmallow double IPA in the title, that it would be a little bit more vanilla. But it's not too vanilla. It's really, it says on the back here, lots of marshmallows and vanilla beans, but I'm not really getting that. I'm getting just kind of like a double New England, like kind of a, not run of the mill. It's good. It's nice and sweet and juicy, but it's not, I don't really get any vanilla that's really setting it apart, to put, hey, it's got vanilla in it. Well, I don't taste it, but it's just me.
We swear we put it in there.
It's a really pretty color. I mean,
it is.
It's a very nice orange juicy color.
It's definitely juicy. It's definitely got a lot of those New England qualities. It's good, but I'm not getting the marshmallow out of it.
Mine is a Pilsner. So that's pretty much it.
It's just a Pilsner.
What they say on their site is that they like to do one thing and do it really well. And I mean, it's good. Yeah, that's all I can say. I mean, it's not like Nothing to write home about, kids. It's a Pilsner.
Well, mine is just a pretty much standard porter, but I think this is a really, really good example of like a quintessential porter where you've got a nice balanced chocolate flavor with some nice earthiness. It's not too heavy. I don't even know the ABV on this. I don't think is all that high. Does not say, but yeah, I mean, it's just it's what you would think of when saying, "Hey, I'll try the porter," and this is what you would expect to get when you say, "I'll try the porter."
Well, at least you haven't
Very
Game of
good.
Thrones.
Well,
There you
Game
go.
of Thrones. I mean,
Yeah.
they just kind of have to this time of year.
So let me ask you guys a question, because I've been thinking about this a little bit, and I've tried a few beers in this with this particular flavor. When you see a beer and it's a peanut butter and jelly, or it says something peanut butter, like peanut butter porter, peanut butter stout, whatever it happens to be, especially like a peanut butter and jelly. When you get peanut butter flavor, what do you get? Peanut butter flavor, I guess, is the number one question. And does it taste like peanut butter? Does it taste like something else?
For me, I've had a couple of peanut butter beers. The only one that I've had that I know for sure I got peanut butter flavor from was from Renegade. They're out of Colorado, out of Denver. That one was, I don't remember the name of it, but it had a very like a Reese's peanut buttery, like a sweet peanut butter flavor to it. All the other ones that claim to be some sort of peanut butter flavored beer, peanut butter adjunct or something, always ended up being a little bit more vanilla, chocolatey flavor to me. I never can find that peanut butter flavor except for that one from Renegade.
Yeah, I've never had one that. I would like to try that one. It tastes like Reese's peanut butter cups. That'd be good.
That one was really good. I really enjoyed that one. I think I did a Friday morning beer review on that.
Yeah, I'm finding that all these a lot of these brewers are now starting to do this, kind of differentiate themselves, like the Lucky Charms beer, and like they're doing all these different marshmallow this, marshmallow that, But I don't know. I feel like I don't ever taste it, like kind of like you said. Yeah, it's an IPA, but I don't taste the vanilla they claim.
Yeah.
In there. I see a lot of them. It's like, why did you put this on the bottle? Maybe it's what you dumped in when you were brewing it, but it didn't come out in the end. So I don't know.
Well, yeah, with me, the reason I ask is a lot of these peanut butter beers, like if it's just if it's peanut butter stout or like a peanut butter porter, there have been a couple that I've gotten really good, that sweet kind of peanut butter taste. But recently, it's like I either just get the grape, like the really strong jelly, quote unquote jelly flavor, or if I get any peanut butter, it just tastes like peanut dust. Like if you go someplace like a restaurant where you can eat the peanuts and stuff and just the dust that's floating in the air, it's like, that's all I get. I don't get peanut butter. I get peanut dust.
Almost like a peanut shell dust.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to do a little bit of a dive to find all the peanut butter flavored beers I've had. I know I've had a few, but I just looked it up. The one from Renegade's called Depravity, and that's an imperial peanut butter cup stout. So it's actually branded as a sweet peanut butter style beer.
Now, Sean, what would you say right now? Because I think for me, my flavors change all the time. But what is your favorite style right now that you're drinking?
I always say on the videos that stouts and porters are like where I think that's where my heart kind of lies. That's where it's just kind of what I built my kind of palate on initially. But these days I think I'm getting more into like Gozas and Berliner Weiss and stuff like that. I used to really love wheat beers like Hefeweizens and even just, straight up wheats. And it just seems like it's changing a lot. Like when I started doing these, I was anti-IPA. Like if I never drank an IPA, that would be, soon enough, never drinking it again. But as you know, obviously a lot of people drink IPA, and a lot of beers that get put out are IPAs. So it'd be a really small amount of videos you could do if you didn't do IPAs. So, but trying them, kind of forcing myself to try them more has made me appreciate them more. But it's not my favorite. I still think, my heart still really lies with with stouts and porters, but I think I'm really starting to lean into kind of Gozas with the saltiness, and the Berliner Weiss being kind of a little bit of a sour kind of style, lighter. That's especially with it getting kind of warmer. That's kind of where I'm moving towards these days.
Yeah, and we actually, for a period on the show, we did only barrel-aged beers. We loved them so much. We did a whole stretch of just everything was barrel-aged for us.
For months at a time.
Yeah, and it was good. But I think, like, right, my favorite style right now is the brewed IPA. Love those. But if there's a brewed IPA shelf I haven't had, I'll grab it because there's not a whole lot of them out there. But yeah, I started out as an IPA fan either when we first started doing this, but they've grown on me, yes.
Yeah, same here with the IPAs. I kind of had to force myself into drinking them to gain an appreciation for what they actually are, and to find out, there's actually more to a good IPA than what you initially think of, and like super hoppy and hard to drink. But there's so many varieties out there, different types of IPAs, that just forcing yourself to try them really got me into them for a little while. And I drank IPAs a lot for a little while before we were doing the show, and I kind of burned myself out on them for a little bit there. I'm kind of starting to get back into them a little bit. I like the brewed IPAs, as Adam mentioned. We had a brewed Pilsner the other day. It was really good. I never used to be a seasonal drinker either, and I'll still drink.
Tagline. That's like your claim to fame. I'm not a seasonal drinker. I will drink a stout in the middle of the summer.
And I still will. I still don't consider myself a seasonal drinker, but I look forward now to the season of beer. So while I'll still drink a porter or a stout on a 90-degree day because I love the taste of it, I look forward to the Gozas and the farmhouse ales and the saisons that come out in the spring and early summer, and really good lager on a lager or a pilsner on a hot day after mowing the grass. These beers that are somewhat seasonal gives me something to look forward to, even though I'm not a seasonal beer drinker. I'll drink a Kolsch on a 5-degree day or a stout on a 90-degree day. It doesn't matter to me. I just whatever I'm in the mood for. But the season of beer is definitely something of interest to me nowadays.
Yeah, I can agree with you on the IPA front. Like when I started, getting into more kind of craft beer outside of just like, Sam Adams or Shock Top, you can even that's what we considered craft beer back in my day. But getting into IPAs, it was like, for me, it was like, the hoppier, the stronger, the better for me. Like having IPA was IPA. And when you think about it, like now, and I think back on it, it's like all those IPAs that I really was just diving into were just West Coast IPAs, super bitter, super piney, and it came to a point, like I remember getting Hop Slam before it was, probably like a couple years in. It wasn't when it was brand new, but I don't remember it saying it was brewed with honey, and I think it was then too. But
yeah,
having it just be so bitter, just like, like you're just sucking on pine sap. And that was like the moment after I had a couple of those and probably got really sick after drinking like 3 of them. I stopped drinking them. And that's when I started like looking more at the darker beers, having like ambers or even red IPAs, just changing that up. And again, like you guys said, kind of coming back and appreciating it nowadays, now that I'm maybe a little bit older, and you realize that there's not just West Coast. And there's West Coast IPAs that I like, but
sure,
that's not the only thing, that's not the only IPA style. And there's so much stuff that's IPA they call an IPA, and, it's like borderline IPA. So you never even know by looking at stuff if it's actually what you think to be an IPA anymore.
Well, that's a good point. And where's the line of what constitutes an IPA or just a standard pale ale? Because people breweries are calling an IPA a juicy pale ale. Like, what the hell is that? You know,
I think. Oh, go ahead.
It's still an IPA, but it's labeled on the can as a juicy pale ale. So, I mean, what do we have, a JPA now? I mean, what exactly are we drinking here? There's so much variety and use of different words to describe a type of beer now that it's kind of confusing. It's fun, but it's confusing, I think, sometimes to the consumer on what they're actually drinking.
Well, I think kind of going off that point, you know, I have one here. I'll pull it out. It's under my bar here. Perfect example. And
I love this. The guy's got a bar under his desk.
Well,
so I don't know if you can see that.
Where you're going. Oh yeah, I've had that.
Oh, I've seen it. I haven't had it yet.
Yeah.
This is a hazy IPA. Okay. Right. And when they announced this, or when they said it was kind of, before they announced it, it was going in cans. It was like, hey, this is our juicy IPA. This is, you know, they didn't say as much, but they implied very heavily that this is Bell's first New England style IPA. This is going to be a juicy IPA. And then, so I was, you know, over just hyped, just juiced to have this beer. And when I had it, it was like, yeah, exactly. This is not, wait a minute. And it says on here, smooth, aromatic, juicy IPA.
And it's not at all.
No. And it says on up across the bottom, hazy. So is it hazy? Is it juicy? Is it neither? Is it a New England style?
Is it just an IPA? Is it?
There you go.
Yeah. My wife loves the New England IPA craze. And so when we saw that, you know, our store, I grabbed them and she took a drink. She's like, they call this juicy? Like, there's nothing juicy about it. It was just, yeah.
That's probably the harshest beer that I've, like, I don't go negative, but that was probably the harshest I got on a beer because, you know, they just pumped everybody up to be, oh, hey, it's juicy, it's hazy, it's juicy. And then you read like a lot of people's reactions, you know, people's opinion. This is my opinion, just like everybody else has an opinion. Mine's not any better than anybody else's, but people just kind of going crazy about, oh, this is so juicy. It's like, I don't get it. I mean, you know, that's like, I don't like Chipotle beers or like jalapeno beers. I guess this is my jalapeno beer or something. I don't get it.
That's what I always find really fascinating. That's what kind of makes it fun with the three of us in our podcast. When we do an episode where we're all drinking the same beer, how differently each of us tasting it, you know, like the things we pick up are, you know, there's been times it's completely different. You know, loved one and Jake was like, no, this is not good, you know. But that's always interesting to me, you know, how we can be in the same beer and get completely different flavors off. And I was going to go back. I didn't learn to appreciate IPAs until I started homebrewing IPAs and made my first IPA that was shitty. Like I didn't jump anything. You know, and then after brewing a couple times, I got a good IPA. I remember just sitting there, my buddy Dan, who was brewing with me, I'm like, I didn't realize it was this hard to make. I wanted to drink. You know, so they're easy to brew because, you know, everybody brews them, but to make a good one, that's the catch.
Sean, you said that you never go negative. Is that just a way of saying that you never like slam a beer like in a bad way, or you just never say, nope, don't like this one? What do you mean by that? I mean, I've watched a bunch of your episodes. I feel like most of the beers you drink, you do like, so it's probably, you know, goes right along with what you're saying there. You don't go negative. You're mostly positive on beers, but how do you handle a beer that you just don't like?
Yeah. So the idea for me was like, you know, going back to Excel, if I was making an Excel spreadsheet and I spent all this time on it and I looked up different ways to do different things and, you know, added this presentation layer and blah, blah, blah. And you came to my office and you didn't know how to do this document and you said, that is shit. Delete that. don't send that to anybody. That'd bother me, right? So what I try to do is, I know this is people's livelihood. A lot of people put a lot of time into it. There's not all beer is great. I know that. But what I like to do is, I try not to be I'm like, by nature, I'm kind of a realist. So what I like to do is, I try the beer, and if there's something that I don't like about it, what I try to do is say, like, instead of saying, this is horrible. Like, if I drank toilet water with like a hop steeped in it, this is horrible. I probably would say it about that. But if it was absolutely atrocious, most beer that's absolutely atrocious isn't going to make it to your shelf. But, if it was really bad, maybe I'd say something really bad about it. But what I try to do is say, like, how I would like to see it different. Like, so let's say, for example, this beer, this Fluff Buddy Marshmallow Double IPA, if I were to review this, and if I absolutely didn't like it, I would say, hey, this has, these are the flavors I'm getting. I'm not getting the marshmallow or the vanilla, though. So I would like to see more of that. Or I might compare it to another beer and say, like, no, I like the other one better. And I'm kind of tossing this idea of maybe, like, changing it up to say, like, would I buy a single of this, or would I buy a multi-pack, like a 4-pack, a 6-pack of this? But I don't really rate beers either. So yeah, but what I don't want to totally slag on a beer. I'm not going to drain pour a beer on a video. I just like to say, like, hey, this is my taste. Your taste. What I'm hoping is that people that watch my videos enough kind of get to know what my taste is, and then they can watch a video and say, like, oh, hey, I know that Sean likes, he likes this beer, and he likes this beer, and he likes this beer, and I like those beers. So let's see what else he says that he likes, and I'll try that one too. And if he says, like, hey, this is okay, but I would like to have less tequila flavor, or I would like to see, if you're saying this is a coffee stout, let's say, let's have a little bit more coffee in it. Hey, Sean says there's not a lot of coffee in this coffee stout. Maybe this is one I want to avoid because I love coffee. So I don't want to be totally negative on something. I try to say, like, this is what I like about it, or this is something that I'm tasting out of it. If in order for me to like it more, this is what it would need to have in order for me to like it more. So instead of just going, like, no, I don't like it because it doesn't have that. It's like, it says it's going to have that. It'd be nice if it didn't have, if it had more of this, or if it didn't have this. So that's kind of the direction that I like to go.
That makes sense. I mean, I don't think we've had a show where we drain poured something.
No.
I know we've had some beers that were like, we didn't care for them, but I mean, that was we just recently stopped using the rating system from Untappd because it's very arbitrary and personal. So I know that there's been some beers that haven't rated on our own personal scales all that well, but even on those, I don't think that we're like, oh, this beer's terrible. It's not, I would never drink this again. We may have said something close to that, but not just flat out like, don't ever drink from this brewery. It's terrible.
Right.
Just like I said, we're doing a show here, and you don't want to slam somebody because that is their livelihood, and just kind of give an honest review, and it's just your opinion anyway. So
right, totally. That's everything that that I say is, it's my opinion. So I don't want not to say either that you or I or anybody has all this influence that, like, oh, well, he didn't like it, so they're going to go out of business. But it's like the market's going to speak for itself, right? Like if enough people say, I don't like that beer, I'm not going to buy it, it's not going to be on the shelf. So they don't, that's probably not going to make it to us unless, it's like some millionaire has a bunch of money and they're like, hey, I heard there's money in craft beer. Let's ask that YouTube guy. He's rolling in it. And they put out their own distribution or whatever. So I just try, like I said, I just try to not be negative about it. And the market's going to bear what the market's going to bear. If it's not a good beer, it's not going to stick around. And if it was not something that I liked, I would say, yeah, this isn't my thing. And I think there's been a few that I've just said, like, yeah, this isn't my thing. If you like this, it might be something that you want to try, but it's not for me.
Yeah, I mean, most beers I think are pretty much self-weeding. I mean, they'll, if a brewery's not selling enough of beer of a certain style, they're just not going to make it anymore. So it's not, it's not our job to say, don't buy this, or do you buy this anyway? So you're in Michigan. Do you care to say where at in Michigan?
I'm between Ann Arbor and Detroit, like smack dab in the middle. If you've been to IKEA in Michigan, you've been to the city I'm in.
You do, I don't know how many videos you've done, but how almost all of them are Michigan beers.
Yeah.
How many do you think are outside of Michigan?
I would say, I think I have, tomorrow, I think I'll have 240 videos, and I think, I would say 10 or less have been non-Michigan.
That's amazing. It's
a lot of beer. It's a lot of beer.
It's a lot of Michigan beer. I mean, I'm in Wisconsin, and most of my Friday morning beer reviews, I try to stick with Wisconsin beers. Doesn't always happen, but a lot of times I do. But there are times when I'm like, I'll go to the store and I'm like, yep, had that. And I find it harder and harder to find a Wisconsin beer that I haven't had yet. I mean, there's thousands of them, I'm sure. And I'm not saying I've had them all, but it gets hard to find sometimes a different, Wisconsin beer. And again, I'm not strictly concentrating on Wisconsin beers, but how do you seek most of your beers out, or how many of these do you get sent to you? And out of the ones that are sent to you, are most of them Michigan beers?
If I ever, I've reached out to a few places that maybe initially, like, I'd follow on Twitter or something that would say like, hey, we got our new can release. And I know it's a Michigan brewery because that's pretty much what I follow. And those at a few months ago, or maybe about a year ago, I reached out to a few places and I got some stuff sent to me. Because it wouldn't hit my distribution footprint for, it could be a while before we saw it. I think of that kind of stuff, I've only gotten a few. I've gotten like maybe, I would say probably 3 things Michigan. And I've had a few people that watch the channel that have reached out and have sent me stuff. I've done, some trades with people just to get stuff from breweries that are maybe on the west side of the state that they don't distribute here. And then I've had a couple. Stone has sent me some stuff. Most of the Stone beers that I reviewed, I think all the Stone beers I reviewed, which I think have been like 3 or 4, Stone has sent me. And then one was like just recently was a Charlotte, North Carolina brewery sent me a couple beers from them, and I reviewed that within the last like month. And that's Unknown Brewing in Charlotte. But everything other than that, yeah, I mean, I've traded for a few things. This one my buddy gave me, but most of it's stuff that I bought. I have family that lives on the west side of the state, so when I go visit them, I hit a couple of the grocery stores over there, and they have grocery stores near Grand Rapids that they carry like way more stuff than I can get here, and breweries that are over there that I can't get here, they get it first. So I'll stop over there and pick stuff up. So yeah, most of it's stuff I've bought. There's probably been probably like 10 or so that have been sent to me or that I've requested. They send stuff to me. New Holland sent me one of their Dragon Milk Reserves.
Nice.
Yeah, that was cool. They sent me like one of those fast openers, the flat bar openers, and then glass and some other like stickers or whatever, and then like 2 beers. But yeah, that was probably the coolest, besides the Metallica one that I could grab and show you guys. It's like on the floor over here. That was like the coolest thing that anybody's ever sent.
I guess I don't know about this. Huh?
Yeah. Stone did a collaboration. I don't know if it's a collaboration, but they did a beer for Metallica, I guess.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
It was a Pilsner, right?
Yeah, it's a Pilsner. Gold. I don't know what the actual name of it is.
Yeah, I keep seeing it. I haven't picked any of it up yet.
So it's got an empty in here, I think. But yeah, this is the box.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
And then if I open it, it's going to play Enter Sandman. So I don't know if you're worried about that, but
not really.
No, we get dinged on music a lot.
I don't know if you can hear that.
That's so awesome.
And then I got 3 cans. They sent a couple stickers. I thought this was, so it's it's the it's not Stone. They call themselves Arrogant Consortia.
Oh, yeah.
Whoops, sorry. But yeah, they I've been getting stuff from stuff from Stone for a little bit, and they were sending me Greg, is it Coke?
Yeah, Koch, what? Yeah, something like that.
He's like he has like a stake in Natista. I don't know if you know what Natista is, but they make nut butters, like almond butter and stuff like that. Well, they had this thing where they on Twitter they posted something saying, "Hey, are you a Stone Stout fan, or are you someone doesn't like Stone Stouts?" And somebody that watches the channel messaged me and said, "Hey, Stone's looking for people to send beer to." And I was like, "All right, cool." And so I sent him a message. I said, "Hey, I don't drink any of your stouts. I've never had one. I do Michigan beer, but if you want to, I'd love to do a video on your stuff." And they started sending me. The first thing they sent me was the totalitarianism, the Russian Imperial Stout.
Yeah, I've had that.
And they made a nut butter along with it, with like some of the grain or whatever that they use in totalitarianism. So they send this thing, and I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to do a nut butter review too. So I talk about the beer and I talk about the nut butter, and I send it, and I'm like, hey, email the guy that emailed me and said, hey, I did this thing. If you want to check out the video, I sent it to him after it was published, and he was like, oh, cool. And then like Stone, they liked my Instagram post or whatever, and Natista like wrote me this message, and then they sent me a couple weeks later, I got something else, like totally unsolicited. I was like, what the hell is this? And I open it, and it's Tangerine Express IPA with a Tangerine Express nut butter. And I was like, I guess I should do a video on that too. So I did a video on that. And I didn't really like the nut butter. It was I don't like Tangerine Express. It's too citrus. It's too bitter.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't really find it very refreshing. And I'd had it before. And I didn't like the nut butter. And then a couple months later, I get another package, and it's Woot Stout. And it's a nut butter with a Woot Stout and nut butter. And I'm like, what the hell? Am I going to become the nut butter guy? Like,
I was going to say, you're the nut butter guy.
Every time I do a Stone beer, it's going to be a nut butter. So the one that I wanted them to send me, the Fear Movie Lions, the hazy, I don't know what they call it. They didn't send that one to me. And then they sent me this Metallica one. And I thought this was a t-shirt, because the whole time I'm like, man, I just hope Stone sends me a t-shirt. Like, I can wear a t-shirt on the video. It'd be pretty cool. Yeah. It's probably a pretty cool shirt. Never got a t-shirt, got a Metallica box instead. So I'm not even a Metallica fan. So, I mean, it's cool, but
yeah, it's a pretty sweet little souvenir though. I mean,
it's a marvel of modern technology.
No, that's awesome.
The nut butter guy, Draft Therapy, nut butter.
Hey, synonymous with nut butters.
Now I have to ask, and this probably should have been the first question we asked, because Jake would be pissed if we didn't.
Yeah.
But Jake,
I think I know what you're going to ask me.
Yeah. Jake is completely, I would say, in love, borderline infatuation, with your sniffing of beer method. Just getting your nostril all up in that beer bottle.
Yes.
And it was funny. I can't remember what, I had said in one of your videos, like, you need to sniff it like this guy. And ever since then, that's exactly what he's done. So
I don't know if that's a compliment or I don't know. I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
It is. Come on. Hey, at least you're not Matt.
No.
Massive beer reviews does sniff beer the way you shouldn't. Puts his hand over the top.
Yeah.
I gave him shit on his last video in the comments, just making fun of him because when he's just on our show and we're talking about it. But where did you get this sniff method? Well,
so the reason I do that is I have a horrible sense of smell. Like, I mean, I can smell things, right? It's not like, if I'm going into the men's room and someone's coming out and they've left a present, I can tell. But where it's like real subtle aromas, I can't pick it up. So if it's a barrel aged or something, you crack it and you can kind of smell it coming out of the bottle or out of the can, just when you open it, that's one thing. But 99% of the time, and I'll say this on videos, like I'll put it up to my nose and I'll give it a smell on each side, you know, because I'm like, hey, maybe this side's better. Like I'm getting over a cold right now, so if I'm sniffing, that's why. But I can't smell it, and sometimes I don't smell anything out of the bottle anyways. And it's funny because a guy that I talked to that's watched the videos too, he's like, you're the only person that I ever see that ever smells out of the bottle. Like, I don't know why you do that, but you're the only one that does it. And I'm like, well, I guess I should be known for something, right? I mean, you know, sniffing out of the bottle, but it's just because I can't smell. Like I have a really poor sense of smell, and maybe it's like, I don't know, sniffing too much ammonia as a child, or I don't know, but I don't have a great sense of smell. So I have to hold it up there, like out of the glass. It's better, but I want to kind of get that first impression. Like all these beers, when I try it, I would say 99% of these beers, it's the first time I've had this beer. Yep. So I rarely have these things beforehand. I don't want to get any preconceived notions. So I just want to like take the whole thing in. I want to get the smell opening it. I want to get the smell pouring it. I want to get the smell when you pour it in the glass. I want to, you know, get to look at it in the light, and I want to taste it and get all. So it's just because I can't smell for shit. So no special technique or anything. I just can't smell. So I'm just like, I got to get in there. And I've seen, I noticed that like when Darwin, when he smells a beer, he'll have his mouth open, and it kind of, you know, runs over your tongue a little bit. So I've kind of done that. You can't really tell that I do it, but I do that because I've cribbed that one from him, because you can kind of pick up a little bit more, like you can get a little bit more of the aromatic from it. So I've been doing that a little bit too.
So when we say, oh, we interviewed the guy from Draft Therapy, and they're like, oh, who's that guy? The guy that does the sticks his bottle up his nose. I still don't hear talking. No, the Nutter Butter guy. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah, and I'm actually, I have to say, I'm kind of sad that Jake's not here, because we could have bonded over it.
Oh yeah, he was definitely upset that he wasn't going. When we booked this one, that he wasn't going to be able to be here.
Yeah, he was quite bummed.
Yeah.
I think he texted us this afternoon to say, he said something like, "Are you guys going forward with the podcast tonight?" Probably hoping we're going to say no, rescheduled. Wait till you get home. I'm like, "Yep, we're doing it. We tested this afternoon from the hotel, and we're good." So,
and then this guy couldn't figure out his computer. had to skip it.
Oh no, we've had a couple of people on the many names who we had issues getting
yeah, we've waited 30, 45 minutes for guys to figure it out a couple of times.
It's not that hard.
We're like three beers in by the time we get going.
You're already toasted. Hey, thanks for joining.
So you're sitting in front of a green screen.
What?
And you've got...
No way.
Yeah?
Oh, I guess I'm colorblind too.
So when you do your reviews, you've got your background. Are you in like just a room in your house, in your office? What is this, a studio you have set up with the green screen to put your graphics behind you? How does this work out?
I am looking at the most hoarderish space in the world, my basement. This is like
nice Game of Thrones.
This is like I don't know, maybe a sixth of the space. Like I have the bare minimum space with this little area carved out with all my empties stacked on my counter over here, and there's like a roll of toilet paper, like literally right here, because I have to blow my nose.
In case.
Yeah, this is the saddest little spot. So when I kind of going back when I wanted to do the channel, I don't have a lot of space. I mean, my house is not small, but I have kids, I'm married, and they take up their own space. If you ask my wife, she'd be like, hey, you take up enough space as it is. I have a room, like it's where I do the editing and like do all the stuff on my computer. That's a total pit with like all the beer stuff just everywhere. So this is, I'm just in my basement. The green screen was out of necessity because this is like, behind this screen is kind of like not stairs, but I have a crawl space. So the crawl space is part of this, and it's just a total mess, calamity. And I had to, this is the only space I could really do it. And the green screen, like at first, was the plan was every beer would get a different background, right? So when I started, the first one I did was Bell's Mars, which is part of their Planet series. And I had the background was Mars. You know, it was like a lunar or a Mars lander like picture. I probably not, you know, royalty free. And I put it in the background and I did all this stuff and I added like a thing from Total Recall in there. The second video I did was like a Shorts New England IPA. And I did this really disgusting state of Michigan that would like float around the background in these like green and pink, like these really horrible colors. And then I found that I'm like, you know, I want to build a palette wall. So I'll just make a graphic with a palette wall in the background, call it a day. I'm actually thinking of changing it now, but that was the initial start. So yeah, this is just, it's the space that I had the most room to do something like this.
when you start realizing the way you're editing is taking up way too much more of your time, it's like, you know what, I'm not going to do it that way anymore.
Yeah, it already takes enough time, so we'll stick with the background. We don't need a whole bunch of bells and whistles. We're good.
Now you said when you started this, you didn't know how to edit video, right?
I did like really basic stuff, like not necessarily video, but like piecing animated GIFs or GIFs together. I don't know if that's going to cause any derision the way I just pronounced that, but piecing those together like way back in the day, probably like early 2000s, you know, but that's like the most I'd ever done.
Yeah. Yeah, I got into editing video way back in the day. I was trying to figure out, I had all this video of my kids, and I'm like, it'd be cool to make a video out of this. And so that's when I started doing different video editing. It gets more expensive over time, but we'll talk about that in case my wife.
I love editing video. I'm addicted to it now.
Yes, I got him hooked.
Yeah, Adam showed me how to use iMovie, and now I'm like every chance I get, I want to edit video. So that's why I started my YouTube channel and just.
What's that called again? What's that YouTube channel called again?
Wisco Boater.
There you go. All right, cool.
Yeah, it's same here. Like I really like to do it. I mean, it's obvious it's time consuming, but I like to try and you know, you kind of learn like little tips and tricks, like filming yourself and how to take cuts out without making it look too obvious, interspersing things together. So yeah, it's kind of like, it let me learn this kind of pushed me into learning how to do it. It was a good thing. I could learn, you know, sound editing, a little bit of effects, you know, I could learn more about tasting beer, writing. I write scripts, you know, there's all this different stuff going on. So it's a production, but I'm learning how to do all this stuff. So and every time I figure out, hey, I'd like to add this in there. I'd like to do this. So like over time I've added, you know, different elements. I used to do like a close-up just by cropping in the video. Now I have a camera that I mount overhead. I'd go overhead to the pour. And my pour used to be just shit. So now that it's, you know, only just loose diarrhea, it's a little bit better, but you know, always learning, always picking up new stuff. So
now you do a great job. I like the overhead view. I was watching your Odd Side Ales. Which one? You did it back in March. I just watched it again today because I just did an Odd Side last week. Shit, I can't remember what it was called, but anyway,
there's so many.
Yeah, the way you described the head on that beer with that overhead shot was like, it was described perfectly, exactly how it looked, and you wouldn't have gotten that by looking at it from the side. Looking straight down on it, the way you described it was perfect. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a great way to film that. Yeah, that's like one of the things that I kind of, you know, I don't watch a whole lot of other beer people on YouTube. There's a few that I watch, but you know, I try to see like, okay, well, where's there something that I can do that's just a little, like put my own kind of spin on it. And that was one thing I didn't see a whole. I don't even know if I've seen anybody. And I'm not claiming like, hey, I'm the only person who does overhead shots, but I don't think I've seen other people do overheads for beer. So it was just, yeah, it's like it gives you a good indication. Not only, you know, like I said, the close-up's nice. You can only crop in so much though, you know, before it just starts getting blurry. And then I was like, well, I have a second camera. I can just mount it on the floorboard basically here. And, you know, I went
tried a few different things, and now I'm got something I'm happy with. So, and it doesn't take much longer. You just got to make sure you start both cameras at the same time. Start them both. You don't have to do the same time, but just start.
But at least remember to start them both. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, as long as you got that, you're recording your audio, you can fix it in post.
I don't know. Well, I mean, you say you don't know how many others out there do the multi-camera view, but out of single beer reviewers, I mean, we've got a podcast of the three of us, so we've obviously got multiple cameras, but you and maybe Tasting Niche are the only two that I can think of that do, multi-camera views of the same shot.
Yeah. I watched a few of hers too, and yeah, I noticed she has like one set to the side.
Yeah.
And then she has the front on. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea. Man, your look was way different back then. I just pulled up your Bell's Mars review.
Yeah,
That's I don't think I could. I mean, yeah, you look so different. I don't think I could put these two views together and say you're the same person.
Well, that's the thing. Like every time I think about cutting the beard, it's like, well, this is part of the brand now.
Yeah.
It's like this. Yeah. When I go places, if I go to a brewery, I've had people come up. They're not necessarily commenters on the video, but they're like, "Hey, are you that guy?" And I'm like, "I don't know, the guy on the poster at the post office, or like, what are you talking about?" And they're like,
where did you see my picture?
Was it? It wasn't on the sex offender list, right? But yeah, so if I cut it, like I've been to places. There's a brewery that I go to quite a bit, Ascension, and I know the people there, and I've said the manager there has a long beard, and I'm like, I'm thinking about cutting it, and he's like, if you cut that, you come in here, we're not going to know who you are.
Yeah,
it's going to take a little while. I'm like, all right, maybe I'll keep it. So, but I'm gonna. I think after we have a Michigan Beer Fest coming up here in the end of July, I think I might cut some off of it. So.
One of the Michigan breweries that I know Jake loves, and I'm sure you've probably had some of these beers, and I'm just curious what you think. Brewery Vivant.
Yeah.
Good experience there. Have you been there?
I've been to the tap room a couple times. Has Jake been there?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's a converted funeral home. So it was a funeral home, or I think they say some people say a church, and I think it was a funeral home though. And the inside, it's like total Belgian styling, right? It's got like stained glass, and the food is all this like French farmhouse kind of style. The beer is French farmhouse style. Most of it's some kind of spin on that, saisons, and they do other stuff too. They do like this Wizard Burial Ground is one that they do that's like a barley wine or something like a barrel-aged barley wine.
Oh, love it.
But yeah, they do a lot of French farmhouse style. That's kind of like what they built themselves on, and now they have some IPAs, but they're all kind of like the saison style. And yeah, the food's awesome there, and their brewery it's a really cool place. And they do small distribution. They do these sour series. So they do like a sour pumpkin ale, a sour stout, and then the sour IPA. I haven't seen the sour IPA again this year, but they do all these different sour styles. I have this one. I grabbed a couple of beers out of my fridge, for this, and that was one I was really considering grabbing, and I didn't grab it. Man,
I those sours sound really good. I've only had 2 of their stouts, and Jake brought these over for us. I've had Tart Side of the Moon and 2018 Love Shadow. Both.
Yeah, Love Shadow's looks like a Smith or something, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
Yeah, that Tart Side of the Moon that's just phenomenal, because it has that like tangy sourness on the finish.
Yeah,
and you don't expect it, but you get it, and it's like, oh my god, this just changed the game, right? Like on this style, like it's not just it's like a little bit sour, but it has just this like tarty farmhouse like funk just at the end, and it's like, oh my god, this is perfect. Yeah, I really like that one a lot.
Yeah, I really liked it too. My comment here was, took a bit to get my taste buds going, but really quite good, very tart. So yeah, they do some interesting ones. And the sours I think would be really, really cool to try. And maybe have to have Jake pick us up some more of those next time he's over there. Jake from State Farm.
Yeah, Sea Farm. What would you say is, if you had to pick one, hold the gun to your head, what's your favorite brewery right now in Michigan?
Like overall?
Yeah. If you only, if there's one, you're going out, you can only go to one.
I've already mentioned it, and it's probably because it's close to me. I would, the brewery that I really, really enjoy, like 95% of what they do right now, and it's only because I go there so often, is Ascension in Novi, Michigan, because they have, I go to, there's a few, I have two or three breweries like right within maybe like 5 minutes of me, or 10 minutes that I can drive to. Ascension's about 20 minutes. And they all, there's all these different breweries. So I can only speak to the ones that I visit. I mean, the places that put stuff out, they put great stuff out, that I've tried. But Ascension, the thing that I like about them is that I can go in there week after week and the tap list will change. They'll have they might have, let's say 10 or 12 beers on tap one week. And I come in and they'll have 10 or 12 again, but there will be 4 of them are new. And they're not just the same. They don't just keep doing the same thing over and over. They'll have they might have a sour brown, or they might have they do a beer called Millennials, and it's a Berliner Weiss with brewed with Sour Patch Kids, right? Which is kind of going back to the Lucky Charms thing you said earlier. But you can taste the Sour Patch Kids in the beer. It has a sour note to it. It has that kind of taste. They do a double New England. That's one of my top 3 double New Englands in the state, I would say. But they're constantly doing new stuff, and it's always different. So they have there's a couple standbys, but they just always change the stuff up. And there's other breweries that I go to that I like, I like what they're doing, and they change it up. But I would say Ascension, just because they just do just wild stuff all the time. They're constantly trying different yeast strains, different hop combinations. It's just, it's always going to be a different line. There's always going to be a different lineup, and you're almost guaranteed to like all of what you try there.
That sounds great, actually. What would you say when you go visit these different breweries, tap room? What makes a good one? I've definitely been to some that are just like, meh. But we've definitely been to some that are like, okay, we're going back. What for you? What is it that when you go there, you're like, oh, I'm coming back here?
I think the criteria that I try and look for is, I used to not be a food person. Food didn't matter. And it really still doesn't. It's nice if they have food and you kind of need to eat something that you can get it, or you can get it delivered. I mean, I'd rather have it just in-house, because then it just takes care of all that. So that has some kind of ranking in there. But it's not really high on the list. But if I go in and I try a style that I really like let's say I go into a place and they have a nitro, and it's a nitro stout or something. And I say, you know what, I'm going to try that nitro stout. And I try it and it's really good, then I'm going to, I make a little tick, like a little mental tick. And then okay, well, let's try this other thing. And it's the atmosphere, it's the service. If I go someplace, I usually, a lot of times I go by myself. So I go into a brewery and I just sit or a tap room, and I just sit at the belly up to the bar, because then I don't have to stand on the line if they have that, and they service me a little bit quicker because they're not coming out to a table. If the service is good, that's a big major plus if I go out to a place. And then, just the beer has to be pretty good. They have to hit on a couple styles that I'm looking for. If I go to a place and they say, hey, we have a New England or a brute, let's say a brute IPA, because that's kind of the big thing now. If I go to a place and they say I have a brute IPA, and I go there and it's just something masquerading as a brute, I might try a couple other things, but it's not going to be a top. I'm going to visit that place every time I'm in this area. But if I go there and they say, hey, we got this brute, and I try it, and it's whoa, this is either really different from any other brute that I've tried, or this is really they're doing something that's catching my attention, then I'm going to hey, I'm in the neighborhood again. I'm going to go back in there. I'm going to check them out. So they have to do something. They have to do a style that, a style that I'm looking for, and do a good job with it. They have to they have to be true to the styles that they say that they're doing. They have to be true to the specific kind of style that they're advertising, and service and food. If the service is good, that's again a big plus. And if they have food, that's just kind of like, oh, all right, that's cool. Then I know that if I come here with friends, we're not going to have to eat beforehand. We're not going to have to order in. They're going to have, decent food when I get there. Then that in my eyes, that makes a good brewery, a successful brewery to me.
Yeah. One thing that I have grown to hope for, or not expect, but we always talk about Three Sheep up in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. The one thing for me, it's like an hour and a half-ish drive to get up there. So when I go up there, making that drive, the one thing I like is there's always something on tap that I can't get. They don't bottle, right? It's their pilot program, whatever it is. And to me, I love that. That's great. They kind of made that drive worth it, right? Because if I go there and I have what I can get in the bottle down the store, why not just get the bottle down the store? What's the big deal?
Right.
I will say we went last year to Detroit for a wedding. And so on the way, we stopped at Founders and we stopped at Bell's. And I will say, the experience at Founders was amazing. I mean, their food was just phenomenal. And then just the beers they had on tap were great too. I had never been there before, so I really wanted to go, see them. But Bell's was completely underwhelming. Like, it was just like the food was not good, and everything on tap was like, I can get that, at the local Jewel. Like, what's the big deal? So that was really disappointing when I went to Bell. That's why I asked that question, because I know everybody has different criteria for like what they expect out of a brew visit. Like a Lakefront Brewery, who we will be up there and interviewing, but next week after.
Yep.
We got
right after Memorial Day.
Memorial Day. They have one of the best brew tours I think I've ever been on, and I've been on them a couple of times. And each time it's fun, And they have a bar in the middle of the brew tour. So when you run out, there's in the middle of the tour you can stop and get more beer.
Two of them, I think, actually.
Right, yeah, there is two of them.
Two beer stops.
They're hilarious and they're informative, and it's always a good time. So,
yeah, I went to Bell's last year. They released it was you can only take home. It was like growlers, which if you ever go to Bell's, you can't bring your own growler. Like I have a drink tank, like one of those aluminum insulated deals. You can't fill that up. You can only fill up what you buy there.
Like only if you buy their growler.
Yeah, and if you want to refill, it has to be their growler, so you have to bring it back. And it's a really nice growler, but it's like $25 or I don't know how much, but it's not super cheap. And they had double two-hearted, so I was like, well, I got to go there. I got to try that, or do a video on it at the very least. So I went there, and yeah, it was like you were saying. It's everything that was on the menu. They had like a habanero Oberon, I think, or something, which they don't bottle or whatever, and I was like, well, I got to try that. But other than that, everything on the tap list, well, barring a few things, I think everything that I ordered was stuff that I couldn't get normally. I think they had the tart cherry barrel aged. I don't even know. I have a bottle here somewhere of it, but it's it's one of their stouts. It was a 30th anniversary stout, like cherry barrel aged thing. And it was okay. I mean, it was kind of like you said. It was a little underwhelming. The tap room's beautiful. It's got really cool woodwork in there. But like you said, everything you can get at any store. So yeah, that was kind of a little bit of a letdown. But I made a couple of their stops to make up for it. So
yes,
sweet.
I'm gonna open another beer. Is that cool?
Absolutely. I'm already on my second one too. I have a Amsterdam Brewery Bone Shaker IPA, and it's actually really good.
I did not bring a second beer in.
Fail.
But I've had like 5 or 6 today, so.
There you go. Chad and I both work from home. Well, I'm in Toronto now, but normally we work from home. So
yeah.
Pretty much for me, as soon as my last meeting's done, whether it's 11 a.m. or 3 p.m., that's when the beer gets cracked.
Sometimes I have noon meetings and I'll sip some whiskey or something during the noon meeting.
I've done that before too. Yeah.
But my boss drinks wine at lunches anyway, so I mean she doesn't care. Whatever. Drinking whiskey today, nice. What'd you crack open there, Sean?
So this is an Ohio beer. No, this is a Michigan brewery, Witch's Hat, and this is a Night Fury. It's an imperial stout with molasses and lactose. So
molasses.
Yeah, it's a good one. I've had it a few times.
Did you just decide to do Michigan beers because that's what was easiest to get, or is it for your love of Michigan? What made you steer that way?
Yeah, I think it's more
Michigan, man.
That's right.
You're Michigan. Yeah.
I'm on the board of the Michigan Tourism Council.
The license plate bureau.
Yep. No, I mean it's just what you said. When I thought of doing the channel initially, it was going to be like the grand idea, and the thing I'd still like to do is kind of get more out of this setting and get into tap rooms. I love going into places, again, sitting at the bar, striking up conversation with somebody else that's there, or the people that work there, or the brewer, or whoever. But yeah, the when I started, I thought like, these are beers that I really want to try. I really want to try Toppling Goliath, King Sue or Pseudo Sue. I want to try Treehouse stuff. I want to try Monkish. I want to try, Pliny the Elder or Pliny the Younger or, whatever. All these different beers that are just all over the place that are so regional and so limited in distribution. But then I realized I can't get any of that beer. And if I want to get that beer, I have to trade with people. And that means that I have to go to the post office or I have to go to UPS. And I honestly, I would rather go to the dentist. Like I'd rather get a root canal than go to the post office or UPS. And it's nothing against our fine parcel delivery personnel, but I don't like it. Like I feel like a criminal, you go, hey, it's my box. I got the label. Don't open it. Don't shake it, please. Because you'll hear it. So it was just like, well, in Michigan, we have over 350 breweries. There's and those are just open breweries. There's over 100 that are in planning phases, and there's more and more. And I can get, almost anything that I want. I mean, there's some stuff that I can't. There's places on the west side that do really limited tap room releases. Obviously tap room stuff that's on the west side I can't get, or stuff in the UP or northern Michigan I can't get that stuff. But I can get a lot of it, and maybe I can make little networks, and I can trade with, if I have to trade, I could trade with people locally. So it was just more of out of necessity. That's what I can get. So that's kind of what I went with at first. And there were places that I've been to, lots of small tap rooms, kind of doing beer tourism kind of stuff. And I just love going to a new place and trying out a new beer and talking to the people and seeing what they like and what the people that are, barkeeps or whatever, what they suggest or what they recommend. So it was just more out of necessity and more out of, there's just so many breweries, there's so much stuff out there that I could easily do, Michigan beer. And I think, this might be blasphemy to some people, but I think Michigan beer is some of the best in the country, probably, if not the top state, probably, within the top 3. And there's just so much stuff to try. There's so many new styles, so many breweries that don't just do traditional styles anymore. It's just, there's so much stuff to try here that it would be a lot easier to do it that way than conquering my phobia of going to the post office.
No, you don't. So Goliath doesn't distribute to Michigan?
No, they don't. I've only had it once. I've had one of the Sues. I don't remember which one it was. I've only had it once, and I was actually in Boston, and they're in Iowa, right? Is they in Iowa?
Yeah,
Decorah.
Yeah.
So go figure.
We'll have to help you out with that. That's one of my wife's favorite is Pseudo Sue. She really likes it.
We can get it anytime, anywhere.
Anytime. It's
Yeah, and they've got some really good hazies. I mean, Pseudo Sue's is a pale ale, but they've got a couple of good hazy IPAs. I haven't had any of their rarity beers. There's actually where I used to live up in Green Bay, there was a liquor store up there called Ridgeview Liquors, which I used to talk about on the show all the time because Chris used to give me really good deals on beers, and they had a bus trip specifically
that's right.
for going to Toppling Goliath for the release of their special beers. Whenever they did it, they'd sell tickets to get on the bus, they'd drink on the way down, go to the brewery for a day, and then bus everybody back. And it was just for the specialty releases. I mean, it was like $250, which I never did it because I'm not going to spend $250 to go drink a single beer, but they sold out. But
you don't have to drive back. That's the best part. You can have that beer and not have to drive back.
Yeah, I guess, but it's the same thing as I'm not going to go wait in line for any beer either, because there's plenty of other good beer out there rather than waiting in line for something. But
Jake waits in line for beer.
What's that?
Jake's in line for beer. Remember, we tried twice to get, what was it, CBS?
Yeah.
We waited in line twice for CBS and missed the cutoff by 1 or 2 each.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. The last one, he missed it by 1. He was like, they had 12 bottles and he was number 13 or something like that.
I've waited at breweries, but I've never waited at a store.
Yeah, we were supposed to go downtown to Revolution in Chicago for their release of their Death Star series this year. And Chad even came down to my house to go.
Yeah.
And then we got hit with a snowstorm. And we're both looking at each other like, I'm not going to go stand outside in the snow in Chicago.
Well, we had a snowstorm, and then we checked Twitter to see what the line was like, and it was like around the corner, like 3 blocks, and we're like, fuck that.
Not standing outside in the snow. Not doing it. Yes. Now, you had said that, I think you said your grand idea was like to be able to go talk to people. I think that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's something we are just starting to do. We finally upgraded our equipment, and so we're going to be able to go into breweries. So that's something we've always wanted. Once we started talking about interviewing, brewers and YouTubers and stuff, that's one thing we've been wanting to do. So we're looking forward to that, to be able to go into breweries. We're going to go to Bayfront, and then we're going to Central Waters.
Yep, in Amherst, yep.
Yeah, and then maybe one more up in Door County.
Sean, have you heard of Central Waters?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah. We get a little bit of their stuff here, and they had they did like a New England style something that they were releasing, or a hazy Pilsner, I think. They just did
a Brute Pilsner. That's the one that we just had.
Maybe that's what it was. Yeah, and I was
surprisingly good.
Yeah.
It looked amazing. I reached out to them on Twitter. I didn't ask them outright, but I was kind of like, oh yeah, I had somebody kind of messaged, like, Twittered me. I'm not big on Twitter, but they kind of looped me into a conversation. They're like, hey, you should try this. And I'm like, hey, I'd love to try it if they want to send me some. And they were like, hey, yeah, good idea. And that was like, it never went anywhere past that. So
right on that.
Right.
That's one thing.
What's your address?
That's the one thing that we've now come up several times that, we find also we have trouble with too, is just the whole regional lockdown on craft beer, right? Which I get. They're a small business, and so trying to distribute out a certain distance is, not cost effective for them. I think when we started this, we didn't really think about that. Like, we didn't go into this with the mindset that we're going to do Wisconsin and Chicago beers. We were actually trying to get from all over to be able to grab maybe a larger audience, than just Chicago and Wisconsin beer, right? And so that's one thing we always find frustrating too. It's like, and it's this really good beer that we want to have, and well, shit, they don't come in this area now. How are we going to get it? And you get trying to find a way to
well, and I feel like unless either they have to know your channel well enough, or you keep reaching out to them to say, hey, keep me on your media list, because we're on a couple of different media lists. I know Left Hand Brewing, we're on theirs, and they've sent they sent us like a bottle opener and some stickers one time. And Eric, the guy I talked to, super nice guy, and I'm not gonna say anything bad about him. He was absolutely fantastic on the phone, but they were like, oh yeah, we'll definitely send you some beers. You're doing good reviews. I've listened to several of them, but we haven't got anything from them.
Yeah.
So,
I'm on a few. I'm on a few here. Bells and Shorts. I don't know if you guys get Shorts there.
Shorts has one of my all-time favorite morning beers.
Which one is that?
It's the tomato Roma tomato.
I can picture the label. Yeah,
That sounds disgusting.
Oh, it was so good. It was like a Bloody Mary beer.
Like I threw up in my mouth a little bit.
No. It's so good, but I haven't been able to find it anywhere since that. That's the very first Friday morning beer review I did.
I mean, it sounds as bad as a pumpkin beer.
I gotta find it. It's Sean. You know what I'm talking about, though.
I can totally. I know about the Bloody Mary thing, and I can totally picture what it looks like.
Shorts Bloody. That's what it's called. I think Shorts Bloody.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, Bloody beer. Shorts Bloody beer. That beer was so good. I loved it, and I've never been able to find it, but I've had a bunch of Shorts beers.
Yeah, there's Bells. I reached out to Bells and I kind of said like, hey, this is before Official came out. I was like, yeah, I do this. I produce this Michigan beer channel, and I'd love to try Official. Or I said something. I'd love to know if you guys have a media list or whatever. And I said I'm really looking forward to trying Official, thinking I could like drop that like little seed. He'd send me a beer, and he was like, yeah, Official, that's coming out soon. What did you, or I think by the time I'd already had, he's like, what did you think? And I'm like, you must not watch the video, because I didn't really think it was that great. But I think I was diplomatic about it and just said, hey, in my style, hey, it was this, but I was expecting a little bit more of this, and it didn't have that. He's like, yeah, we didn't market it that way. It's like, no, you kind of did. But
but you wrote it on the can.
Right. It's on a couple places here. So, yeah, I'm on a few lists, and the thing, we were talking about waiting in line before. There's a lot of places with the distribution of the regional beers. They're kind of going. It seems like places that are just opening up or just starting up are going away from that kind of distribution model too, which is really hard for people that want to try stuff that, they hear about these places and they just do these taproom releases. There's a couple places around me that they only do taproom releases, and it is like I go on Instagram and there are people from like, I would consider them to be, minor celebrities in some respect, post, I got like, for example, there's a brewery in Ann Arbor called Holmes, and they are like in Michigan, they are probably, and they make great beer. They are probably one of the biggest like hyped beers, and you'll see them on like Thrillist or a few websites like best beers in Michigan or like fastest growing or most hyped or whatever it is, lists, those kind of lists. But the distribute, I think with the 3-tier model that we have, with there being the brewer or the brewery, the distributor, and the store, the distributor gets so much of that cut, and these guys are making this beer, and Holmes, I know for sure, they're spending, like they're buying top-notch ingredients. They're not skimping out on any ingredients. So it costs a lot to make this beer, and it's not, price always comes into question, and it's like, I don't think it's super expensive, but I'm only buying like a 4-pack, right? I'm not going to buy the case allotment or whatever they're selling. But it's more profitable for these guys to just sell it out of their tap room. They can produce as much as they want. They can can as much as they want. Holmes does cans and bottles. They can do anything they can do as much or as little as they want, and people will show up and they will line up around that building and they will sell out. Mug Club members, that's a prime reason to be a Mug Club. You get an hour early. Mug Club's at 11. Yeah. General Public's at noon, and they sell out by 2. It's like and they don't. They're not, I'm sure that it's not, it takes money obviously to make money, and they got to scramble a little bit to get off the ground. But once they get established, I don't think they're making way more money self-distributing it out of their tap room than they would be doing it, distributing it either regionally or striking up some kind of deal and doing it nationally. So yeah, can't blame them there.
I totally get why they do it. Like you said, the whole 3-tier distribution models, like, from, was put in place after Prohibition. And it's like states are starting to, they're starting to loosen up on craft beer, but I don't know. I think the whole lobby is too stiff that we won't see the 3-tier distribution go away anytime soon. There's just way too much money being made by those.
Yeah, no, I think it's
that it won't happen, which sucks because I think it does kind of put the foot on the throat of these small guys to self-distribute or stop growing. Like you're not going to get that reach of your beer self-distributing.
Yeah, it's brewery only, and whatever your drive audience is going to be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I mean, we have a beer store here, Beer Bazaar. There's a couple of Chicago breweries that, load up their vans and drive beer to them, type of thing. But I mean, I'm just like 5 miles from the Wisconsin border, so we're way up here from where they are for the brewery. So I was really surprised that they actually drove up here to deliver beer this far north. But it's frustrating because, like you said, you hear about these beers, like you see, we'll see Kyle from No Hype Beer Reviews reviewing a beer that I'm probably never going to get a chance to drink, but it really sounds great, and unless you're willing to like do that trade thing, or unless I happen to be on the East Coast, it kind of sucks in that sense. But then I also have beers that he'll never get, so I guess I can rub it in his face.
Yeah, it's a little bit of the FOMO, right? Fear of missing out, and it's like I have so much beer. Like I usually go out on Fridays to different breweries, or maybe like a few favorites that I go to, and I was like, you know what, I couldn't do it. I had other commitments. I had to be home, and I thought I could spend $20-$25 at a brewery, or I could just come home and drink this. I have this fridge full of awesome beer of stuff that I love. But I'm going just to try out this other stuff. So
you're speaking to the choir there. My wife and I a few months ago,
especially Adam,
we emptied out the beer fridge in the garage, and brought some of the beers up from the basement, and went through and used Untapped to scan all the beers to like figure out what we had.
Yeah,
and we had 75 different beers, and like something like 100 and some odd beers all together. And but what the hilarious thing is every time we go to the store, we go to the liquor department, and every time without fail, I'm not the worst culprit, I will say. So, Gina, if you're listening, it's not all me. We go and she's like, "Ooh, this looks good. Let's try this. Oh, this looks good. Let's try this." I'm like, "Look, we don't have enough room in the beer fridge to try all this stuff now."
And you got stuff in there that you bought months ago that you were like, "Oh, we got to try this," and you still haven't tried it.
Yeah, there's also stuff where I'm like, what did I say just last time? I was like, "Oh wait, I have a whole pack of that." Oh, the barley wine from Revolution.
Oh yeah, Straight Jacket.
Yeah, Straight Jacket. I'm like, I have a whole pack.
And you had a 4-pack of Boathouse from Crystal Lake that you wouldn't let go of.
I'm cellarying it. Come on.
What a waste.
I didn't forget it's in my cellar.
What a waste.
I'm being way too sentimental about some of these beers, and like, well, I'm going to save for a special occasion that never comes. So it's like
we're that way with wine. We've got Brittany and I love wine, and we've got bottles of wine that we're like, nope. Like on a Friday night, let's crack open a bottle of wine. What do you want? How about this? Nope. So it's not like a special day. We gotta save that for some, but that day's never gonna come. Just drink it.
That day's never coming. Never have special days, sweetie, anymore.
Just drink it.
Just drink it. That's why because I used to always go buy like 3 or 4 bottles of CBS to try to save, drink one and save them. But anymore, it's just like, just gonna drink it. Speaking of CBS, what are your thoughts? I'm glad Jake's not here because he would have ran to, we wouldn't get him to shut up. What are your thoughts about the most recent CBS release? As far as I would say, comparing it to previous releases.
Yeah, I'm the guy that buys tickets when Founders has ticketed releases. So KBS, CBS, the last year and a half or whatever have been ticketed releases for those two beers. And I do it mostly because you get kind of the jump on everybody. Like, you know, if you're in Grand Rapids, they have a tap room in Detroit that they sell out of now. So I'll buy the ticketed releases and you know, 2017 was the first year it came back, right? And I hadn't had it before. I was kind of out of beer in 2011 or whenever I think it was 2011 when they released it before. So I didn't get a chance to try it, and I had heard it's great. I have a friend that was really into beer, and he said it was really great. And I tried 2017s, and I thought it was pretty good. And then 2018s came along, and founders had that whole barrel age series, and it was 6 beers. Like, that was the first time in a while that I can think of that they had that many beers for that series. And they built all this hype, and hey, tickets, you know, get tickets for this thing. So I buy the tickets, I go to the store, I go to the tap room, drive to Detroit. It's like 20 minutes out, you know, from my work. And I go there and go get my ticketed thing. I get the tote bag and I take it back, and I get my haircut at some place, and I go to the store, and they had cases stacked up. So I went and I did the review for it. And I just didn't, it was just too sweet for me. It was just too much. It was the year 2017's was really good. I wouldn't say it was like my favorite of the year, but then when I had 2018, it was like, I think I did a video, and it was like comparing all the 2018 barrel age series. And I think CBS was either that or Barrel Runner was my least favorite. It's just too much. It's like too sweet. You know, it's like you need one of those tasting snifters. It's like half maybe a third of the size of what I have here, and just like, okay, I'm good. That's my CBS for the year.
Well, that's the way the last couple bottles we've had of it. We split a bottle between the 3 or 4 of us, and that's enough. I mean, it's really good, but that's enough. Yeah,
it's overshadowed, I thought, by just the other stuff that they released that year. I mean, if they just put it out and they didn't have a barrel series, if I didn't have something to compare it to like that, I may have thought it was okay, you know, pretty good, okay. But it was compared to the previous year, I want to say it was just all maple. Like, there was no like bourbon taste, or not much, and there wasn't a lot of I think they do it's like chocolate too, right? Like one of the key flavors in CBS. It's like KBS, but in the maple bourbon barrel. And it was just like, I was pretty disappointed by it, because I was expecting it to be like it was in 2017, and it was just too sweet. It was just over the top.
Yeah, I would say for us, like it was hard to find for us, right? So, you know, once it's released in Michigan, then they started spreading it out.
Yeah.
And, you know, in the previous years, it was a hunt. I mean, it really was. We would all be texting each other like, "Did you find them? Where'd you find them? You know, did you find them? Pick it up." And, you know, whenever you did come across it, you pretty much just buy what you could, because you don't know when you're going to see it again. Yeah. But this year, like, it was everywhere, and it's still even at stores now. And the thing that also I know Jake would just lose his shit over is that we have a friend down in Texas who, when we were on the hunt looking for CBS one year, he sending us text messages of pictures of like pallets of it full down in Texas, you know. And so Jake's like, wait a minute, we're a state over and we can't get it, but down in Texas they got just a shit ton of it down there. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, we couldn't get it either. They did that 2017, like I said, they did that ticket release, and they were releasing it like, so I think they did I drove to Grand Rapids, I think, for 2017, and they had just opened the Detroit tap room, so they sold tickets for Grand Rapids first, and then Detroit was like a week after. And I went there, and it was kind of crappy weather, and it's like two hours away from me, and I went and picked it up, stopped at another brewery, and then came home. And it was like, you know, you got to like stalk Instagram or like your local bottle shop on Facebook or whatever. Oh, today CBS, and it was like no CBS, and then they would get it, and you get there and be like, oh yeah, we sold it like 10 minutes ago. Man, come on. So yeah, that was so scarce. It was so hard to find. But like you said, it's the hunt to get this stuff sometimes.
Right. And so now it's like, because it's everywhere. Like I know for, again, Jake would say it's not as special anymore, right? Because there's no hunt. I think we talked about in the last episode, he enjoys the hunt, right? So it's not as special anymore. Do you feel the same way, or when they release it again, you're still gonna go hunt for it if it's a hunt?
No, I mean, I would have to agree. It's I don't think I'm going to buy tickets. Like I said, I bought tickets. I felt so burned by buying tickets and driving out of my way to go to this place and just happening to walk into a grocery store that sold, they have a pretty good beer department, and going, hey, I'm going to just check out what they have. And they had just like stacks of boxes or cases of it. And it's like,
me, man, I would be pissed. Like, wait a second.
I spent $50 to get 2 bottles on a ticket for the ticket. And I went there and I got 2 bottles. I go to the grocery store and it was like $23.99 a bottle. It was actually cheaper. And the only thing I got was miles on my car and a tote bag. Like, what am I going to use this tote bag for?
Yeah.
I don't carry tote bags. Like, cool. It's a khaki and red tote bag. That's great. But, if you're going to just release it same day to the store, I mean, if you were paying for the exclusivity and you got it like a week before everybody else, I don't know if it would be worth it, but at least you get something out of it. But when it's available the exact same day, I just felt so just burned by it. I don't think I'm going to do, I'll do KBS. I'll probably do KBS's tickets next year, but I don't think I'll do CBS. And I don't know if I'll do another CBS. Like, CBS is going to, it's scheduled for this year. So when they don't do it for 6 years or whatever, and it comes out and it's super hard to find, that does make it special. But when they do it the next year and it's every place, and then they do it the year after that, it's like, I guess it's not that special. And it's like, I would so much rather see founders do something more innovative, like their Mas Agave that they just put out. I'd rather see that than just go out on a limb, do something like Barrel Runner, which I didn't like, but at least you're doing something different, and then retire.
Yeah,
not retire,
really
but yeah, give CBS a rest for a couple of years, and then build up the anticipation for it to come out again. But if we just put it out year after year after year, I guess the big concession that they're making this year is they're doing the bottles, the 12-ounce bottles instead of just the 750 milliliters. Okay, that's cool, but and that's what they should have been doing in the first place, because I don't know about you guys, but I don't drink Bombers. No. I don't take Bombers to my friend's house. So I open it and it's like, okay, I either have to finish this, or I can put like a silicone stopper in there and hope for the best a day late. I don't drink every day, so it's not, it's just kind of like it goes to waste. It doesn't do anything for me. So yeah, cool. You're doing it in the bottles, and maybe I can go to a place and buy a single. You know what I mean? Like that's good enough for me.
Now, what's KBS been like for you? I know from us, I think Woodman's in Kenosha still has boxes upon boxes of KBS.
Oh yeah, I was at Hartford Wine and Spirits yesterday, or 2 days ago, and they had two pallets of it.
Yeah, so it's been
both 750 mil and 12 and the 12.
But I think
12.
It was this year. I was in Texas this year when it released, right? Wasn't that when it was in Dallas?
Yeah, it was in March, right?
Yeah, and I walked my buddy Dan down there. Was like, hey, let's go over to this place. They usually have a good beer section. We walk in, and there's just like this big ass shelf, just full of KBS, in the middle of Texas. And so, I think these guys hadn't even been able to find it yet. And I'm like, I'm gonna buy a couple of 4-packs to bring home, I guess. Crazy.
Yeah, KBS this year has been. I still see it out. But in years past, like when I first started this, it was when Perrin put out No Rules, and I started like picking bottles up of that I could get. And KBS was that was like mid-March of 2017, and it was already, KBS was gone. Like I went to a couple places, I'm like, hey, you got this No Rules, but do you have KBS? And they, like, a couple people laughed, like, yeah, get the hell out of here. Just like, we haven't had that for weeks. It's sold out like instantly. And then, this year, but it's been everywhere. And I bought tickets for it. And again, it's because we got it in, I want to say it was like March 16th or something this year that it came out. They released it in the tap room. And then I think it went national, like, or however many states they're in shortly after. But I know for 2018, it got released on like March 1st. And it was like, okay, yeah, and it wasn't going to come out nationally until like 3 or 4 weeks later. So that's actually been my most popular video, is the KBS 2018, because I got such a jump on everybody else. Yeah. And I don't know if Mas Agave's hit shelves, so that's been kind of the same deal. Like that was supposed to be released in their tap room on May 3rd, and it actually started hitting shelves in stores near me on May 1st. So I don't know how that's but the east side of Michigan, where I am near Detroit, and the west side, if I'm here and I'm looking for let's say, for example, a Founders barrel aged release, if I go to the west side near Grand Rapids, they have stacks, they have pallets of it. So this little area is a little bit more of a microcosm than, like going to West Michigan. It's a little bit easier to get that stuff.
Now, do you think that's due to popularity waning, or they're just producing just a shit ton more of it?
I think they're just cranking it out.
Yeah, that's what I would.
We've had discussions before on the podcast about the distributors holding on to it.
Well, we've had people tell us specifically that there's a Beer Bazaar up here. He was told specifically, look, you do XYZ, I can get you a case of 2017 CBS or whatever it was. And this was recently. So like the distributors this in the back of the house.
This bottle of 2017 I have on my shelf right now, I got in either January or February in a little grocery store in a town called Grafton, which is, I don't know, 10, 15 miles east of me. And a friend of mine on Untapped said, hey, 2017 CBS is here at this Piggly Wiggly, I think it was. And yeah, I walk in and there's a whole shelf full of it.
The second show in a row we mentioned the Piggly Wiggly.
Well, there's some good liquor. They got a good liquor selection.
Oh, Piggly Wiggly. I just keep remembering their commercials with the guys in the pig costume runner.
I think there's a little bit of that distributors holding it back too. I mean, going back to No Rules, or even CBS, we can just use CBS as an example. When 2018 got released, there were, like I said, 2017 was so hard to find in a store if you didn't have it, even if you didn't have a ticket. And then when 2018 came out, like within a couple of days, it's like, we just found this, back with the Lost Ark of the Covenant and the Holy Grail and a couple other Indiana Jones deals. We found this like 6 crates of CBS and we're going to send it to you. And it's like, come on, man, that's bullshit. Like, how come when I was busting my ass driving all over town, driving 45 minutes to 2 different stores to get a bottle, you didn't have it. But now that the other thing's out, like you have
all
you can't get rid of it. Yeah, exactly. That's infuriating.
There's another liquor store up here. They got what did they get? That 2016, 2017. They got pigs of it. So then on release day, you could go get 16, 17, and buy the new one. They were selling that tickets, for where it was, and you get bottles of the new CBS, and you get the old ones. Plus, they had the old KBS, and I was talking to the guy. I was like, did you guys have this keg sitting in the back all this time? He's like, no. The distributor said if I bought X amount of the current year of CBS, he would then sell me these other kegs, and he kind of was just shaking his head. Like he was like, it's almost I was just being held over the countertop here, because if I wanted to get enough CBS, because they're a pretty big store with a pretty high demand. People go there quite a lot for these things. It's like if I wanted to get enough, I had to buy what they wanted me to, plus all these other things. So it was, it seemed kind of shitty. Now, have you had any of the Chicago Revolution, like their barrel age series, Death Star series?
No, I'm on a couple Facebook groups of beer, enthusiasts, I guess. And I know Death Star was one that a lot of people were losing their mind over. And there was one that was like, it was like a box, and I think it was like half of it was orange. I don't know if it was a variety, if it was the same beer, like a 6 or a 4 box or whatever. But no, I've had a few things from Revolution, but I haven't had any of their barrel aged stuff.
Man, looks like we have a care package to put together for you.
I have so much like that I'm trying to keep in order here sometimes that it's almost, and the thing too is being really primarily a region-based channel, I become so I get tunnel vision, you know, on like what comes out here and what comes out at other places, because you know, there's just so much stuff going on here. I mean, I'm looking at my counter with all my empties that I haven't gotten rid of yet, and there's just all this stuff, and it's like, oh, okay, well, this is what I'm keeping track of, and it's like, this is what's coming out. This is the store I can go to where I can buy singles, where I don't have to buy a 6-pack or a 4-pack and put myself, you know, in the poorhouse, no pun intended. And then, you know, but then there's this national brand, you know, not national, but, you know, there's these places now that distribute here. You know, we got Cigar City, we got Revolution does some stuff. We have, you know, just all this stuff that comes out. I become so, I have to put blinders on, and I just forget about the rest of the world sometimes. So it's difficult, and it helps my wallet a little bit when I can say like, oh yeah, I don't have to concern myself with that, because nobody sent, you know, I don't have to run around like a chicken with my head cut off to get this beer because this isn't a Michigan beer. So it's helpful in some ways, but in some of it I'd like to obviously try. But yeah, it's a blessing and a curse, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
And you've had the Goose Island beer, right? Did you do a review of Goose Island? The barrel?
No, I have a couple from 20. 7.
Pigo.
What happened?
I don't know. I guess it's over. I still see like a square there for him.
Yeah, there's a black square.
Oh, he's still there, but he's not. If you can hear us, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Oh yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, my battery on my camera died, so. Yeah, I have I don't know how much you caught, but I have a couple. Let me switch to my webcam, and you can look at my ugly face even closer. Hey, so yeah, I have a couple bourbon counties I have my real cellared stuff, the stuff I don't want any light on. I have in like bins, and Bourbon County, I have a couple 2017s that are actually in the case or in the bin, but I haven't opened them. So they're waiting there.
2017 would be my second favorite. 2016, I think we all agree, was by far
16 at best, 17 second best. Yeah, you'll enjoy those.
Cool. I am looking forward to it. It's again, it's like special occasion. It's like no time like the present, you know.
Exactly.
Sometimes.
Well, Sean, we, of course, always want to be respectful of people's time. So we'll start to wrap up here. But we're a couple of final questions here. Are you on Untapped?
I am. I think I got to find I don't use it very often because I don't rate beer, and I don't really keep track of it on here.
Okay.
I keep track of it kind of in my head a little bit, and then no, actually, no, I actually don't. I think it's just draft_therapy. I think is my Untapped, but I only have 268 check-ins. So, and I've had way more beer than that. So,
yeah. And that's the main reason I use Untapped is to keep track of what I've drank.
Yeah,
because I have the worst memory in the world. I don't even remember who I do this podcast with half the time. So,
your memory is like my nose.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to do a quick search for you here. I'll send you a friend request.
All right. Cool.
I do, and Adam, I think Jake also, we all do use it and check in each one of the beers that we drink. I am 14 away from 1,000 unique check-ins, so dang. I'm pretty excited about that. But where else can we find you? You're on YouTube, but where else?
I'm on Instagram. I think. I know I'm on Instagram. It's draft_therapy on Instagram. I post pretty much either like a haul, like if I have a local haul or beer haul, or if when I post a review, I'll post a picture of the beer that I'm talking about and leave a little bit of a little synopsis, maybe my summary of the beer. And then, if I'm on vacation, I usually drink local when I'm on vacation too. So keep track of stuff on there. That's probably where I keep track of the most stuff, is more rather than on Untapped. I probably keep track of it a little bit better at it on Instagram. And then on Facebook, I think it's just Draft Therapy. No space, no underscore, no nothing.
All right. Well, I'm not on Facebook, so I won't search for you there. But I will, search for it on Untapped and Instagram stuff. But thanks for joining us tonight. Super interesting talking to you, and always enjoy meeting new people and new beer tubers. So
yeah, it was a blast. I like I said, I was looking forward to it. I started listening to you guys a little bit and seeing, I had to know about Jake's love of the sniff. Yeah, so thanks for having me on. I had a great time and look forward to talking to you guys again.
Yeah, definitely have you on again. Stick around here for just a second. We'll wrap it up.
We're the three best friends that anyone could have. We're the three best friends that anyone can have. And we're always gonna hang out.